Detective Danny Rourke is in his therapist's office, in deep thought, but he opens his eyes to her voice. She asks him to think about the reason he's in her office, and Danny starts talking about how he lost his daughter. He remembers that when he took Minnie, his daughter, to the park, he drifted for a split second while she was playing, and she was gone without a trace. He looked everywhere, but couldn't find her. He suspected Lyle was the kidnapper, a man who looked lost and was staring at the kids. Danny got him arrested, but his lawyer managed to free him due to his mental incapacity and the fact that he didn't know or remember anything that happened that day. Years later, Danny still suffers emotionally from the incident, adding to the fact that his wife left him. His partner, Detective Nix, arrived to pick Danny. As he left his therapist's office, in the car, Nix tells him that they received an anonymous tip about a potential bank robbery in a nearby town. Nix also adds that 2 other branches of the same bank were already targeted by thieves, potentially inside jobs, who exclusively raided one specific safety deposit box that had no money in it. Arriving at the scene, they join a team of detectives stationed inside a surveillance van. As they monitored the bank, their attention was drawn to Dellrayne, a man who looked familiar to Danny. Dellrayne sat beside a woman in the park, engaging in casual conversation, told her, "It's very hot today," and walked away. The woman starts walking, repeating his words, complaining about the heat while walking and taking off her clothes, not stopping for traffic, and causing a few car crashes, blocking the road. Dellrayne walks to the bank security guards, talks to them, and walks inside. His actions struck Danny as suspicious, and immediately follows Dellrayne inside the bank. A bank employee greets Danny, and Danny asks if he can open a safety deposit box. They walk to the vault, but the employee searches for his keys, leaves Danny alone, and heads back to his desk to get them. Danny rushes to the same safety deposit box number 23 that was targeted in the 2 other branches, opens the box using the employee's keys that he stole earlier, and is shocked to find a picture of his daughter with a note asking him to find Lev Dellrayne. Dellrayne heads to one of the bank's staff. She greets him, but he tells her it's late afternoon, which makes her close her counter for the day. The security guards stationed outside come inside and start shooting. Everyone panics and starts running outside. The receptionist walks to the vault, heading to the same security deposit box to retrieve its contents. Danny pulls his gun and asks her to stop, but she doesn't even notice him, like being hypnotized or something. The security guards arrive at the vault and shoot Danny, but he is wearing a bulletproof vest, and the woman walks out with the deposit box and their protection, heading to an armored truck. It's chaos outside because of the earlier accident, but the woman starts the truck and drives, crashing it into other cars and dying from her injuries. Dellrayne comes to the rumored truck, grabs the box, and leaves a timed bomb in the woman's hand before leaving. Danny rushes out, but the bomb explodes, destroying any evidence. Danny sees Dellrayne and immediately starts chasing him. He follows him to an empty building, and Danny is startled by the other detectives who came to help. All 3 head to the roof, and Dellrayne tells the detectives that he's the wrong man when Danny asks them to cuff him. Hypnotized, the 2 detectives turn their weapons against Danny. Dellrayne mentions Lyle, saying that Lyle was also hypnotized like these detectives, implying that he was involved with Minnie's kidnapping. Danny shows him the picture from the deposit box and asks him about Minnie. Dellrayne realizes the box is empty and walks away at the same time that Nix arrives to see Danny being held up by the 2 detectives. Dellrayne orders them to clean up before jumping off the roof. They both turn and shoot each other. Danny runs to check on Dellrayne, who disappeared in thin air. Only 1 guard survived, and as with all others, he cannot remember anything. Danny is sure that Dellrayne must know where Minnie is. That evening, Danny is going through the footage and gets a call from Nix, who tells him that he ran a trace on the anonymous call and gives him an address. Off record, Danny goes to the location to meet the anonymous caller, Diana, a psychic. Danny enters, introduces himself, and a strong, big man client challenges him. The man goes outside and waits on his bike to check on Diana while Danny talks to her. Danny mentions Dellrayne, and Diana freaks out and asks him to leave. Dellrayne approaches the biker, boom, hypnotizes him, and he crashes his bike right into Diana's store, intending to kill both Diana and Danny. Luckily, Danny moves Diana out of the way just in time to avoid the crash. The guy falls, takes his helmet, tells Danny he won't stop, and kills himself. Danny takes Diana to the police station to protect her. She finally opens up and tells him that Dellrayne is a hypnotic, one of the most powerful out there, a legend, and he controls people's minds. Diana has the same powers. They both belonged to a U.S. government-classified, privately run agency known as the Division. This program was designed to train and improve individuals with hypnotic abilities. At first, the agency pretended to help them, but their agenda was clear. They wanted to use their powers for political and other conflict resolution measures. Nix tells her it's bullshit, and Diana sets an example for him. She asks him to sit and pretend he's in prison. Now a prisoner, he starts crying, and Diana asks him to get some air, so he goes outside for a smoke. She continues her story about Dellrayne, saying he went rogue and wanted to control the agency. The division tried to stop him, including Diana, but he was too strong and managed to escape. Diana quit and started a new life, staying in the shadows, but she realized that Dellrayne was behind all those robberies when nobody remembered anything. Nick went outside for his smoke, and Dellrayne approached him to offer a light, hypnotizes him, and Nick storms inside, threatening both Danny and Diana. Danny tries to talk to him, but Diana warns him that he's lost. He won't listen, and he won't answer. Nick raises his gun, and Danny shoots him in the leg. Injured, Nick still attacks Danny and tries to kill him. He manages to handcuff him to the cell bars, but Nick is fighting to free himself, which forces Diana to shoot him dead. Furious, Danny asks her to put down the gun, but Diana says he is already gone. On the run, they went to a diner to think about their next step. They are now fugitives wanted by the police. Danny finally believes that Lyle was innocent, that he didn't remember anything, and that Dellrayne is the one behind Minnie's disappearance. A local sheriff walks into the diner and asks for his usual meal when he recognizes them. But before reaching out for his gun, Diana talks him out of it and asks him to announce on the radio that the fugitives were heading north. Danny and Diana leave the diner, and we hear Dellrayne telling them on the radio that he's coming after them. He and two cops were waiting for them outside, and Danny asks Diana to run while he distracts them. He goes to the train yard, where he hides behind trains. Danny is illusional, seeing an unreal sky and landscape in front of him. He is awakened by Dellrayne and the two cops. The cops are ready to shoot when suddenly Diana appears with a truck running over both of them. They use the truck to escape to Mexico. Diana explains that hypnosis makes people see whatever they want them to see. However, Danny is different. He has a psychic block. She couldn't use her powers on him, but Dellrayne, as powerful as he is, can influence Danny. They make it to the border. The customs officer asks for their papers, and Diana asks him, "Which way is Mexico?" and he lets them through. They make it to Jeremiah, another colleague from the division. He is not hypnotic, but he has a very strong block that only Dellrayne can break. They knock at his door, and a lady opens it. But Jeremiah gets suspicious when he sees Danny and takes out his weapon. The lady also takes out her gun, but it turns out to be Diana, who put the lady into a closet, playing on a beach somewhere in her mind. They ask Jeremiah about Dellrayne, and he says that he is after something called Project Domino, a powerful weapon created by the division. A weapon so powerful that it can control even the most powerful hypnotics, including Dellrayne. That is why he stole it, hid it, and wiped his own memory to hide any trace of it. He left clues in the safety deposit boxes or breadcrumbs to help him remember their location. The division captured him, but he managed to escape. And now he's going after those clues to retrieve the domino. Jeremiah thinks those clues are in one of those safety deposit boxes. Danny pulls out Minnie's picture from the box, and Jeremiah asks to look at it, but Diana gets suspicious and asks him to hold off. Dellrayne reveals himself and shoots, but they manage to escape just in time. They walk through the crowds, but they are trying to attack them, obviously under Dellrayne's influence. They push through and manage to steal a bike rushing through town, pushing their way through. Suddenly, Danny's illusions start again. Unable to see straight, Diana reminds him that it's not real, but a truck crashes into a building, forcing them to stop. The building started falling all around them, so they ran into an alley to hide. Cops arrive and stop the crowd from chasing them, but Dellrayne also arrives. He controls the cops to draw their weapons, and Diana tells him, "Now is the time to use your powers, if you have them." Danny uses powers he didn't know he had, forcing the cops to turn against Dellrayne. Shocked, Danny tells Diana he didn't know he had powers, and Diana thinks his memory must have been wiped. Diana suggests they go meet another friend, River, a hacker who can hack into the division network. River pulls Danny's records and finds that Vivian, his wife, was also a member of the division. Her location is encrypted, so it'll take River a few hours to crack. Devastated that he didn't know his wife's past, he sits alone to look at his family's pictures, and later shares his story with Vivian about how he and Vivian fell in love during college, got married, and started their family. But everything collapsed when Minnie was kidnapped. He thinks his wife lied about her job, but that her pain over losing Minnie was real. Diana goes to take a shower, and Danny receives a call from Dellrayne, showing an unknown number. He asks him to take his gun and puts 3 bullets into Diana. Danny struggles to fight these thoughts, and the illusion starts. One time he's carrying scissors, and another time his hands are empty. When Diana comes out, after leaving the scissors on the wall, he realizes they are still in his hand. Diana sees his reflection, knows he's under Dellrayne's influence, and kisses him to distract and calm him down. They eventually fall asleep. Danny wakes up with nightmares about his family and sees Diana replacing Vivian. He goes into the other room and takes River's secure access key to use his computer. He retrieves Diana's file and is shocked to see her go by Vivian as her alias and still be active in the division. He pulls his wife's photo, and his memory is coming back. Diana might be his real wife after all. Danny searches for Rourke and is shocked to discover that Minnie is Project Domino. Born to two powerful hypnotics, she has extreme hypnotic abilities and is immune to other hypnosis. Danny confronts Diana when she wakes up, telling her that he now knows what Project Domino is all about. Diana asks Danny, "Where did you take Minnie?" And he answers, "I didn't take her anywhere." Flashback starts, and Diana explains that the division only wanted to train Minnie after realizing how powerful she is. The flashback shows Danny packing and taking Minnie away from her mother. He was the one who took their daughter, refusing to let the division abuse his child, and then deleted his own memories to keep her safe. Slowly remembering things, he's finally realized that none of this is real. He asks everyone to show themselves, and the room is suddenly replaced by the division's base. He now sees everyone, including his River, the therapist, the blonde, Vivian's copy, and Nick's, who's saying you brought this on yourself. His life and everything he witnessed were lies or fakes, part of the division's plan to help them find out Minnie's hiding place. Dellrayne tells him that they have 12 times in 4 years tried to get him to remember where she was, but Danny always seems to figure everything out when they get close enough, breaking the illusion and forcing them to restart the whole process. Danny runs outside, where he sees everything they build for their construct or illusion. The division tasers him, and he wakes inside the lab. Diana tells him her love for him is real and asks the division to initiate a new reset. After the reset, we see Danny is back at his therapist's office, opening his eyes when she addresses him. The construct is reinitiated exactly the same way as before, using the same words, story, and everything. Danny goes through the new construct and gets into the elevator, but he sees Diana slowly replacing Vivian this time. We also see the transition between the construct and the division's illusion set, where everyone is acting their part. Maybe Danny is onto something? As before, Nix picks him up in his car or golf cart. Danny uses his notepad to write something, and they go to the bank. They look at the surveillance cameras, and he leaves towards the bank like before. He stops at a blind spot, and when he realizes everyone is distracted, he takes a van, trying to escape. Diana stops in front of the van, uses her power to influence him over her radio, asks him to turn off the engine, but Danny's block is strong, and he drives around her, making his way out of the base. Nix finds Danny's notebook and sees that Danny figured out that Lev Dellrayne is not a name, but rather a location, an anagram for Deer Valley Lane, Minnie's hiding place. Danny makes it to Deer Valley. Carl and Thelma open the gate, armed with weapons. He asks about Minnie and heads inside the house to see her. Minnie is still playing with her dominoes. They reunite, and Danny is emotional to see Minnie's older version. She tells him they're here. The division agents come with helicopters, and Diana realizes that the ranch belongs to Thelma and Carl, Danny's foster parents. When they land, Diana asks for Minnie, and Nix shoots both Thelma and Carl. Danny comes out and says the woman he loves wouldn't want such a life for their daughter, implying that Diana is under the influence of the division. He asks Minnie to come out, and she runs to hug her mother, telling her she's proud of her for coming home. Diana is confused, and Minnie reveals that all this has been a plan to escape from the division. Dellrayne realizes this is not real. It's all a construct. He shoots the house to confirm that it's not real. Minnie uses her powers to make the agents shoot one another, and Nix finally shoots himself. Suddenly, the construction ends. They're in the desert. Carl and Thelma, not dead, arrive and shoot the remaining agents. Meanwhile, Minnie is helping Diana retrieve her lost memory, revealing that this was the family plan all along, to reset Diana and Danny's memories to protect their daughter. Diana is tied to a chair with a man in a red mask, resetting her memories. Minnie opens her eyes and realizes Dellrayne is about to shoot them, so she forces him to shoot himself. Danny finally approaches them to recap the whole story. They knew Minnie was powerful the moment she was born. The division started training her to become a lethal weapon, which Danny and Diana didn't want for their daughter. Knowing that the division would never let them go, they made a plan to hide Minnie with her grandparents until she was strong enough to fight the division. The parents had to reset their memories to protect Minnie's whereabouts, but Danny left a clue to himself on the photograph. He used the red mask to reset Diana's memory and made her believe she was on the division's side to bring all the agents to Minnie's location to finish them. That is the only way they can all be safe. The three reunite and leave, with Thelma using one of the helicopters while Carl stays behind to clean up. Shockingly, Carl is not Carl. He's dead, and Dellrayne reveals himself, and we see him heading to the second helicopter, maybe to be continued.